Hey guys, so yesterday I did a video bringing up and addressing the perceived issue that a lot of people thought that chrono crystals were being reduced. Talked about that in that last video, and as I was recording that and as I was uploading it, I was thinking I could just do a video talking about what I think are actually the biggest issues in the game. And while we're at it, might as well ask what you guys think are also the biggest issues in the game. And in that video yesterday, I actually did talk about what I thought were the biggest issues. It's really a two-pronged issue that I really would probably feel more comfortable just looping into one item altogether. It is new Legends Limited characters and Legends Limited Zenkai Awakenings both not being good enough. Those to me are the two biggest problems. Again, I like to just loop it all together and just call it one issue. So that issue, I think, is the biggest problem with the game. Now, of course, there's more than just that issue with the game, but I think if I had to pinpoint one problem that I think I would consider to be the biggest, it is that. And I think a lot of the other problems in the game you can derive from that, right? So we'll go through some of these responses, and I think we might be able to just link what people are talking about to the fact that those Legends Limited units and LF Zenkai is just not being good enough. So let's dive in here and see what people have to say. All right, so let me just make sure we have the full thing up here. All right, Libra. Huge inconsistencies with unit quality and focus around Proud. So yeah, the unit quality thing is what I talked about. Focus around Proud is an interesting one. Proud is the most efficient game mode by far now, so it is getting harder trying to keep up with it. Considering you do not need a lot more, you do need a lot more resources to build a top tier team since LFs and LF Zenkais have not been up to par for the majority of the year. Yeah, I mean, this, again, it all flows back into the point that I made. Proud is definitely the most efficient way to grind RP, for sure. And then not only that, they've recently added an extra incentive to play Proud in the Proud coins, and then you also have those missions for the titles, which don't really actually matter, but it's just extra artificial content. But yeah, this does basically just tie into what I was talking about. Hope this changes somehow and they do bring some value back in standard battles, or at least they ease up on the CC cap to make them building smoother, with now some form of pity being added to ultras. Yeah, the CC cap definitely is a problem, and I've advocated for an increase in the CC cap for many, many years now. Um, I don't think they would simply just remove the cap. I think that what's the most likely scenario is they would increase the cap to something that's higher than 20,000. I would say 50,000 is probably what they would do, and it's what I would do, right? Now, clearly, there is a reason that the CC cap exists. It's there to incentivize people to be spending their CC and not just hoarding it forever. That's why it exists. But I mean, I think it's time. I think it's time they raise the cap. I do. All right. Oh, good. We have Jordan. I wonder what incentive or what insightful things Jordan has to say here. Me, stop ruining the meta. Yeah. As crazy as it sounds, I don't actually. I would not be surprised if people actually thought that like I was the biggest problem in the game. Not, I wouldn't be surprised. Tyler, aka Nanogenics. Pacing and unit design. Unit design is genuinely all over the place. Yeah, I mean, again, that ties into what my point was. It's generally just LF characters and LF Zenkai is just not being consistently good. The quality not being there. Pacing is also interesting. Um, the pacing issue to me was actually more of a problem with the anniversary, right? Specifically, we had the weeks that new banners dropped. They would chunk us with insane levels of content. And then the next week, and then the week after that would be like a free character, and then it would be like a piece of equipment, and then that would be it. So the pacing of the anniversary was really bad, right? That's the biggest point of criticism I had, besides part one for the 7th anniversary compared to the 6th anniversary. The 6th anniversary off weeks were way better. Um, Pacing in terms of non-anniversary stuff, I think is actually a little bit better. But pacing could still be definitely improved. But yeah, the unit design being not consistent is, again, goes back to my original point here. The disparity between LF releases. Yep. We cannot have releases like Metal Cooler, Final Flash, while units like Kaioken, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and Fusing Super Vegito. Okay, interesting. I think that's what FSV is, right? Maybe not the biggest, but I've always hated the leader slot and featured boost, especially leader slot. I homogenizes teams more than it diversifies them. So leader slot to me is not really something that is supposed to be diversifying the game. It's more so something that's actually there to help players build teams. I've seen a lot of pushback recently on the leader slot. For me, if they just removed leader slot from the game, it really wouldn't affect someone like me. So, I mean, I don't really have skin in the game, as they would say, for this issue in particular. But I think if they did remove the leader slot, I think it would affect a lot of free-to-play players, right? Because the leader slot essentially is just acts as a wild card slot for you to throw in any third character to a team. So let's say, as an example, you pull Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, and you just kind of like had the tag 4s on your account for a long time, and then you farmed up the equipment, and you don't really have a good third character to use on the GT team. Let's just say we get an LF next week. It's an LF Super Saiyan 4 Dragon Fist Goku is what we get next week, right? And you being a free-to-play player, you spend a lot of your CC recently on Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. You don't really feel like spending a lot of your CC on this new LF banner. You'd rather save up. Instead of you not being able to run a GT team at all, you could run a GT team if you just leader slot a character to be ran with those two GT characters, right? Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and the Tag 4s. That's why the leader slot exists, in my opinion. I don't think the leader slot is there to increase team diversity. I don't think that's it. That's really what the use case is for it right now. Maybe that's originally what it was intended for, but I really genuinely do think that the leader slot, although it's you can definitely view it as like a negative aspect in terms of kind of allowing you to make teams that naturally shouldn't exist. It does serve as a good tool for free-to-play players in terms of allowing them to build teams more easily. So I think that is a good tool. I personally would not be in favor of removing leader slot. I could see the argument against it, and it wouldn't affect me at all, but I think it probably helps more people than it hurts, for sure. The featured boost. I think at this point we could definitely go away with the featured boosts. We could get away with removing that from the game. The reason why the featured boost system was initially introduced is... So the featured boost system was initially introduced back in 2021. A product of 2021 Dragon Ball Legends. Yeah, 2021 was a dark time for the game. It was the worst year of the game by far. Nothing comes close. Like people are complaining a lot this year. It wasn't even. You can't even get 2021 was like legitimately like we thought the game was going to die. Like people joke about it now. It's not actually going to happen. But genuinely, in 2021, people were like, how long is this game going to last? Like, that's how bad it was. The reason why the leader slot was introduced the reason why the featured boost system was introduced in 2021 was to combat the terrible mistake that they made with the Zenkai system back then. We had characters like Zenkai Purple Super Saiyan 3 Goku, Zenkai Yellow Android 18, Zenkai Red Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, Zenkai Green Fat Buu, and the list goes on and on. Yellow Demon King Piccolo, right? We could just give like 30 billion examples of Zenkai characters that just made the game completely unplayable. And the biggest problem with 2021 is you go down the list of LF releases that year, and I would say even 50% to even a majority of the LF releases that came out in 2021 ended up not even being relevant. Why? Because the Zenkais were just better. So the reason they introduced the featured boost system is to give new LF characters a bit of a boost. Literally, that's the name of it's literally to give them a boost upon initial release so that they could start phasing out those Zenkai characters. It was to correct the Zenkai issue. So now that we're pretty far removed from that problem existing, right? That is now a 4-year-old problem. The featured boost system is now a 4-year-old system. I don't think we really need it in the game anymore. I don't really think that new units need the extra boost to be competitive. So I would be okay with removing the featured boost. I would. I think there's different ways they could handle the boost system, and not even just the featured boost system, but just the boost system in general. Maybe give bigger boosts to Z-tier characters. I know they just kind of overhauled the boost system, but I think there's definitely a lot of things they could do to make it a little bit more interesting to increase team diversity for sure. But the feature boost system, I agree, they could definitely remove that. I am less so high on them removing the leader slot. I think that helps more people than it hurts, actually. All right. Honestly, lack of meaningful content in off weeks. Yeah, okay, this kind of goes back with the pacing thing. There have been some banger off weeks here and there for sure, but it really feels like we have to do a coin flip on whether or not the week will just be completely dead, which was an especially big problem in the anniversary. Yeah, exactly. Is what I was talking about. Let's open this. Just make sure that we can see everything here. I think the main culprit of weeks feeling like this is just whatever the hell is going on with the Zenkais. Yeah, I was going to say, this kind of also just ties back in with what I was saying, right, with the Zenkais not being super good. At first, the problem was mainly LF Zenkais, but now it feels like they barely touch the mechanic at all, even for 1%. It all leads to dead off weeks, making the game feel very dull. Yeah, I guess we can kind of extend that sentiment to 1% Zenkais too. Right? To me, it really just feels more egregious when it's the LF Zenkais, because LF Zenkais used to be something that you would look forward to, right? You have a favorite character that dropped 2 or 3 years ago. They're finally getting a Zenkai Awakening, and all of a sudden they're, relevant again. But recently we have these Zenkais, the tag Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta, the green Super Saiyan Trunks, Red Cooler, right? These characters that people are looking forward to getting Zenkai Awakenings, and, they're not as good as they needed to be, and it just feels bad. So that, I think, does actually contribute to the feeling of these off weeks kind of being off, because, yeah. All right, let's go back. Okay, here we go. We were over here. All right. Poor balance around leader slot. It was a great tool, but they haven't restricted the strongest units enough to prevent homogenization and silly combinations. They were on the right track with Daima 4Ku, but it was too much. It should be closer to what that's Universal Spirit Bomb got, but only applied to the top of the top. So he's talking. This is more so about restricting characters to teams, which I could understand. I think this is actually the biggest issue we saw with the Part 3 Ultra characters. Right, giving us 2 Ultras at the same time should have been a good thing in terms of meta diversity. All they had to do was not have them be ran together. It's not that hard to do. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. The whole entire point behind releasing 2 Ultras at the same time is so that they're not used together. But that's the opposite of what they did. It's the exact opposite of how they structured it. So we should have had Frieza kind of being the face of powerful opponent, Lineage of Evil, that kind of team. And Namegoku could kind of just be like a shoe-in on Saiyans and Sun Family and that sort of team. But when you have these 2 characters together, especially paired up with someone like Krillin, who they just, kind of forced into the game, which they never put a 1% sparking on Ultra Banners, but they did for that one specific instance because they're trying to force Frieza Saga to be a team. That's not the way you do it, right? I mean, that's just not... it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. So I would not be opposed to them giving us more, tag restrictions or team restrictions for characters. The only problem with that is, from their perspective, it reduces the chances that people are incentivized to summon on those characters, right? So, for example, if, I don't know, Ultra Full Power Frieza, for example, let's just say, had a restriction to where he, maybe he only had like half of the charge rate on his active gauge outside of being ran next to another Lineage of Evil character. Or maybe Frieza's unique gauge charged half as fast when not being ran next to another Lineage of Evil character. Or maybe he didn't have endurance or something, right? So they could do these things and make characters weaker when not ran next to specific characters or on specific teams. But it's going to make people less incentivized to summon for those characters if they're not able to be ran more easily next to other good characters. That's the reason why I think they don't do it as often, but I'm open to this. I am. Because I think this is a way that they could push team diversity as well. So this isn't a bad recommendation. Okay. LF Zenkai not hitting like they did last year. Yep, Zenkais are not really standing out, and their new philosophy ain't working. Yeah, the new design philosophy thing really is strange because you can't follow it for 70% of the time and then not follow it for 30% of the time, because the 30% of the time where you don't follow it end up just being all you fight. And we're seeing that right now. Regen should be the best healers. Saiyans should do insane damage. Super Warriors should have the best mechanics in the game. Hybrids should be insane in a different manner. Android key recovery should be amazing. LB Blast and special moves should be cracked. Yeah, I think just each team having their own specific characteristics like this is theoretically what they are trying to go for, but it doesn't feel like they're accomplishing that at all, right? I mean, they even said this. If you go back to that newsletter we got at the end of March, where they were like, okay, yeah, characters who have high combo potential in the original series have card draw speed. Characters on the regeneration tag have really good healing, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That does not really seem to be the case still. So I'm not really too sure what's going on with that. Okay. Whoa. All right, we'll work our way through this. First things first on my list is the green TOP map. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is the biggest issue in the game, but it is certainly an issue. I don't know why they just don't fix it. It's very clearly if you compare this green Tournament of Power map to every other map in the game, there's clearly something wrong. I mean, it's the only map that lags. Like, why? There's clearly an issue. I really hope they can remove this map, as there's obvious problems with this green 2P map, and it's not only me. Heard I was having the same issue. Yeah, it's not okay. Secondly, I've noticed the poor quality of Unlimited characters this year. Yep, best to really mostly save for Ultra characters, literally, since the new design philosophy doesn't care about Ultras, and they make Ultras broken without following their new design philosophy. The Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta Namekian and Frieza is the best team in the game. Yeah, it's not even an opinion. Like, that is a fact. There is no other team that comes close to that team. Also, if the teams you main require that characters then do something, which is if they drop an android character and a buff, then I summon for it because I need it and I want it as the main team. Android is currently the skeleton at the bottom of yeah, he's talking about the just the neglect of certain tags. 20k CC cap. I saw my video yesterday, post discussing about this, and fair enough. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so yeah, I already talked about this. I'm not going to go super in depth about it, but I think the CC cap should be increased. What I'm thinking is they may have a way of seeing how many people are buying and spending money. I can be wrong here, but with that, the favor of pay to win more than free to play. Yeah, I mean, again, the reason why the CC cap exists is because they don't want people just infinitely hoarding CC, and the CC cap existing incentivizes you to spend your CC so that you can go below the cap, so that you can then exchange for the CC from the exchange shop. That's why it exists. I actually think since they have added a new CC shop only for CC alongside the new supporter feature, what we'll be able to do is the new CC shop to buy copies, level up your supporters. Yeah, the supporter thing, again, we will tackle that once it gets introduced. For all we know, it could be a disaster. I hope not. I'm not somebody who's like, oh, guys, the supporter feature, it's gonna suck. Like, that's not me, okay? If it sucks, we'll talk about it, but I hope it doesn't. I'm eyeing with the addition of supporters. Hope this means we finally get an increase in the removal of the cap. And unless I hope you enjoy the yes, thank you. Chrono Crystal's missing. I mean, that's not actually the case, but it's kind of misleading. Unit design, definitely. I understand they want Ultras to be the best of the best, but there should be zero reason that they're completely ignoring the new philosophy they've created with Ultra characters. Then we have stinkers with Metal Cooler and Full Power Frost, along with the very subpar LF Zenkais. This is just incompetence at the finest from my point of view. Yeah, there's actually like a separate way you could think about this too. So, at the beginning of this video, I said I think the biggest issue was LF Zenkais and new LF characters not being good enough. I think the other way you could look at it is Ultras just being too good, right? Not necessarily. So instead of them bringing LFs up to the Ultras levels, maybe they just bring the Ultras down to the LFs levels, right? That's another way you can kind of look at it. So if that's the way you want to look at it, it wouldn't really be considered that LFs are not good enough. You would then just make the argument that Ultras are too good. I think either one is fine. But if you make the argument that Ultras are too good, it's going to be tough to really phase out the Ultras that currently exist, right? Because we're eventually going to have to get better characters than them. All right. I think it's a severe lack of PvE content. Yes, this is certainly a very huge issue, and this is something I've talked about for many years as well. PvE in this game is just boring. I really believe they should update kits to majority of the different characters because there are so many forgotten and irrelevant characters. What's the point of collecting them if you can't use them? I like to imagine being able to build any team using older released characters and having fun, powerful opponent, movies, regen, LoE feature, etc. Everything revolves around the new characters all the time, and if you don't have them, what can you even do in the game? I would love to be able to use any team and have fun playing new events and actually play PvP. So, I think the best way they could do something like address this problem is not like individually go into older characters' kits and like actually buff them. This would probably have to be something that's done via the boost system, which is something we briefly talked about earlier. But characters, for example, in the Z tier boost, what if they started doing things like not just damage and damage guard, but like what they have in co-op with Dragon Ball acquisition rate, stuff like that. They could give Dragon Ball acquisition rate, they could give card draw speed, they could give... And actually, I think the smartest way to do this is to utilize damage guard penetration, because damage guard penetration is a stat that is going to age better, and certainly at this point is definitely a stronger mechanic than just straight up damage inflicted. Damage guard penetration is one of the ways they can have older characters not do like 0 damage to new characters. Like, there's a clip, I think it was the 5x Zenkai buffed Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta video that I did. There's a clip where Zenkai Red Super Saiyan 3 Goku does a raw blue card against the opponent's transformed Kaioken Goku, and it actually does like less than 1% of his health, and then he heals like 10% HP from it. So like stuff like that I think is stupid that it exists in the game. So I think maybe giving characters that are in higher boost tiers damage guard penetration could actually be a way to fix, well, not completely fix the problem, but it'll help at least address it. And then they could also do something where, so right now we're in a GT celebration. And what they've done with this GT celebration is a lot of the not all of them, because I actually, this is, by the way, why the Tag 4s are still in A tier. A lot of the GT characters are just now an A tier boost because we're in a GT celebration. I actually didn't realize this because I checked Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta was still in C tier. I would have done a video on him if he was in A tier, but he's not. But a lot of the GT characters are in A tier because of this campaign we have going on. So they could do a thing where when we're in a campaign featuring a certain episode or a certain tag, like last month we had the LoE campaign, this month we have the GT campaign. During these campaigns, they could do a thing where, like, okay, certain GT characters have this blanket buff. Maybe they have a 20% more Dragon Ball rate. Maybe they all have like level 1 card draw speed in addition, right? And it clearly wouldn't be for newer characters, it would be for older characters. And it would just be a way to incentivize some of these older characters to be usable. I'm just spitballing. They could do stuff like that, though. I think it would be interesting. The developer is not testing the characters before releasing them. Yeah, I mean, that just goes hand in hand with what I talked about with the power levels of new releases. That it's not Dokkan. Well, Dokkan exists, so you can go play that. All Zenkais are mid. I don't get why they don't make them strong. Felt like when Zenkais were pay to win, they were better, but they just hold back so much. I don't know. They should just make them strong, at least have them be viable for like 3 seasons before they drop a new philosophy Ultra, yeah. I mean, you're kind of answering your own question, right? There's a reason why when Zenkais were quote-unquote pay to win, they were better. There's a reason why Ultras are better than LFs, generally speaking. Why is the reason? Because you, on average, spend more CC for Ultras than LFs. Why were Zenkais better when they were quote-unquote pay to win? Because you spent more CC for them. This game has a really, really consistent theme for a long time, where they really want to make sure that the value that you are investing into the game, you get back in some way. Right? That's why when Zenkais first came out, they were undisputed the best in the game, but it took like 20,000 CC to get them maxed out. Right? So that's why they did that. Usually this game has a pretty good investment reward ratio, usually. LFs and Elf Zenkais are so garbage, what even is the point of them? Yeah, like, okay. The biggest issue is that it has too many issues. I don't know if that's true. The biggest issue is that it has too many issues. I don't think that's like that's not. I don't know if this guy's like trolling or not, but like that's not an actual. Because I'm just thinking about this from like a player's perspective. Like if you're playing the game and you're like, oh my god, this game has so many problems, like that's not in itself an actual issue. Not enough Gohan. Yeah, trust me, we're gonna get a Gohan soon. Just trust me. 3 Ultras are controlling the whole game with 0 diversity or barriers to stop you from running all 3, and mostly poor releases since Kefla isn't helping. The campaign that didn't happen, yeah, the LOE campaign. I think something they could do for Ultras in particular, let me actually just go back over here. Right now, they have not changed the Ultra abilities for forever. They've never changed them. The only time they've ever changed the Ultra ability, where's the Ultra ability? It's probably like up here. Yeah, here we go. The only time they've ever changed this Ultra ability is when we had the first summonable Ultra. And then every summonable Ultra has had the exact same Ultra ability. The reason why this doesn't make sense to me is because back when Ultras first came out, we had Ultra Super Gogeta. In fact, let me actually just pull this up so we can see this. Let me just pull this up so we can see. Super Gogeta. Let me just show this, because it's easier to illustrate this if I actually have this on screen. Super Gogeta has 100% damage inflicted. Okay? His Ultra ability is 30% damage inflicted. So you have 10% of his damage is coming from the Ultra ability. Or sorry, 30% of his damage is coming from the Ultra. That's a lot. 30% of his total damage is coming from the Ultra ability. Well, it's not. It's actually it's 30% of this number. It's not the total number because it would be 30 of 130. But 30% of his start of battle damage is from the Ultra ability. Now we have the most recent Ultra with Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, who has the same exact damage coming from his Ultra ability, 30%, but his start of battle damage is 300%. So you had Gogeta, who was getting 30% of his start of battle damage from his Ultra ability. Now you have Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, who's only getting 10% of his start of battle damage from his Ultra ability, right? It's 30 compared to 300 versus 30 compared to 100. So the problem is, we've had characters who are just getting stronger and stronger and stronger with their unique and starter abilities, but you haven't changed this number at all. So the problem is, this number becomes less and less significant as time goes on, right? So 30% damage is kind of just like, okay, well, why do I care, right? So it becomes easier and easier and easier to ignore the Ultra ability. So why would anybody even care about running this guy on a GT team? Like, sure, he's going to be getting a little bit more, you know, marginally better damage. But at the end of the day, it's not really going to make a material difference, as opposed to when this guy dropped, and it's like, okay, you either really want to run this guy on a Fusion Warrior team, on a full Fusion Warrior team, or you got to run him on Leader. As opposed to Vegeta, where you can kind of not even care anymore. So I'll be interested to see if maybe instead of giving the next Ultra 300% damage in their starter ability, what if it's 250 here, and then it's 80% here? At that point, it becomes a little bit harder to ignore running this guy on like a specific team that's leveraging the full Ultra ability. So that's what I'm going to be looking at as well. The new design philosophy, it's made the gap between Ultras and LFs way bigger. More LFs have been fumbled, and every Zenkai has been at fumble since the change. It's also the reason so many matches go to timer, more abilities and less stats, or just give old units 200% guard. Yeah, this goes back to the same thing I was talking about earlier. The current level of LF/LF Zenkai releases, the design philosophy they were going for, just completely ignored by Ultras. Unit designs, increasing the banners without giving more CC. The frequency and strength of Zenkai/buffs for old units in general. We should not go through an anniversary with one LF Zenkai and one LF equip. Yeah, that's definitely fair. We didn't only get one LF equip. It's mostly just the LF Zenkais, yeah. But 100%. Like, you compare the 6th anniversary to 7th anniversary, that's... I don't need to go into that, okay? Zenkais in general have also just been lowered. With the monthly releases being abhorrent, it makes the meta what it is now. Yeah, again, this all just funnels back into what I said at the beginning. It's just the quality of LFs and LF Zenkais is just... Because you have non-competitive LFs and non-competitive LF Zenkais. Number one, it makes these celebrations just feel sluggish, and it doesn't feel like anything's changing with the game. And then the meta is the same. Right? I mean, people are complaining, oh my god, we have the same teams every match. Oh my god, the meta isn't changing. Well, if we actually got good LFs, and if we actually got good LF Zenkais, guess what? The meta would change, and it would feel like the game is fresher. You'd have different teams to fight. You'd have different teams to use. It really all just goes back to, I think, the quality of these LF characters. It really is. All right, I think we'll do a few more. I don't really want to go like super long with this one, because I think most people are agreeing with me. The biggest issue, oh god, the biggest issue is them not being transparent about the mistakes they make and how they handle them. Because either they fix everything with 20 equips or don't do stuff like this in the future or completely stay silent, which is not good. I wish this person would give an example of this. Not being transparent about the mistakes they make and how they handle them. What in particular are you referring to? Because either they fix everything with 20 equips or don't do stuff like this in the future or completely stay silent. Are you talking about like buffing characters? Other small issues are that they aren't restricting units more. Yeah, we talked about this. I can understand this. Teams like Ultra Full Power Frieza, Namek, Goku, and Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta shouldn't work as good as they are. It's just 18 Topo Vados all over again. Yeah. Talking about 2021 Legends, yeah. We have to wait and see on how much CC gets in the future, but for now it's definitely fine. Them focusing purely on Proud is a mistake. I don't know if it's purely Proud. I definitely don't think that's the case. I don't think it's 100% them focusing on Proud, but I think... First of all, I think Proud and Standard should not be the same ladder. Like, I don't think somebody who only plays Proud the entire season, I don't think they should be held to the same rating standard as somebody who only plays Standard for the whole season. To me, at this point, I think it's stupid that Proud and Standard are the same ratings. They should not. They should be separated. But yeah, I mean, you could make an argument that some characters are probably designed specifically for Proud in mind, which I think is stupid, because I think most people play Standard. I wish they would give us numbers on this. I wish they would just tell us what percentage of people who play PvP play Standard PvP versus Proud. I guarantee you it's at least 80%, 20% for Standard over Proud. I guarantee you. Yes, it's the more efficient mode, and yes, units are easier to balance there because no Zenkai buffs, but you cannot neglect the mode that made you big over the majority. Yeah, I mean, again, I think most people play Standard. Also, their time management is something way out of shape, like releasing units mid-season. Yeah, I think it's... People don't really talk about that, but like it really is a problem. It really is. All because of Ultra Super Vegito. Yeah, because the Ultra Super Vegito stuff is really kind of what threw the schedule out of whack, because it delayed everything by 1 week. So now... Every time we've gotten a new character since the end of the anniversary, it's always been the middle of the PvP season, which is just so stupid because it makes people less incentivized to try them out. People don't want to summon for the characters, and it's just, I really think it's a stupid thing. They should line up every new character, every single one, no exceptions, should all release at the start of a new PvP season. Every single one. And if you have a situation where it's kind of like unavoidable for a character to drop in the middle of a season, guess what? You extend the season by a week. Sorry, that's what you do. Okay, I think what we'll do is we will do these three, and then we'll probably be good to go. Power creep and overall unit quality. There is no reason why units from before the anniversary should be outright unusable post-anniversary. Ultras completely ignore the new design philosophy because they definitely excel in more than one role. I agree with this to a certain extent, but us having very, very severe power creep during an anniversary is not new. It's not new at all. I'm not saying that we've never had anything... I'm not saying that we've had stuff to this degree before, because I think this year is really an exception to the rule, and they made that clear going into the anniversary, that they were almost trying to reset the battlefield. It's kind of like when Blue Beast Gohan dropped, And basically what happened is the entire game just started from scratch because he was so much better than everything else in the game, like, combined. Nothing was even like 10% as strong as Blue Beast when he dropped. It was a joke. This kind of feels similar, right? And they came out with a newsletter, and I think their goal, one of their, I guess, unmentioned goals going into the anniversary was just to create a new blank slate for the game. So that's why I think they did what they did. But, you know, to be fair, we have had this level of power creep. Well, maybe not this exact level of power creep, but we've had immense power creep in prior years. You go all the way back to the 4th anniversary, and, you know, we have Red UI Goku, Dragon Fist, Ultra Super Vegito. The only character that really kind of survived that was the androids, right? You had like Blue Kaioken Goku, who was completely dead. You couldn't run him. He was like the Ultra that dropped right before the anniversary, right before the anniversary happened. You had the 5th anniversary, Goku and Frieza, the Gammas, Orange Piccolo, and then Ultra Vegito Blue. What characters prior to the anniversary really survived the 5th anniversary meta? All you fought in the 5th anniversary was Goku and Frieza, Sword of Hope, Trunks, Zenkai, and Ultra Vegito Blue. That was like the team everybody ran, wasn't it? And you had like the Gammas on the androids team with like Magenta, and then you just kind of had like teams with Goku and Frieza just kind of being leader slotted on these random teams. But that was the 5th anniversary. 6th anniversary, you had Fusion Warriors, you had Majin Buu Saga, and then you had the occasional team with like Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan on it, right? And then you had like GT, I guess, with like Super 17. Like it was kind of just like Super 17 and Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, who were the surviving characters of the pre-6th anniversary meta. So I don't, yeah. We have some examples of characters that have survived prior anniversary metas, but not a lot, right? So this is not some new revelation that, oh my god, you know, the anniversary brought this huge power creep level to the game. I think this year was particularly big, right? So, I mean, there is merit in what you're saying, but they did kind of say in advance that this would happen, right? This is the opportunity that they've taken to kind of introduce just a completely new blank slate to the game, and this is to set the groundwork for the new design philosophy, which I don't really think they've succeeded with, but that's what their goal has been. Balance, right now it's kind of hard to use anything that's not the 3 Ultras, so it doesn't help people to actually have fun with balanced units. They should follow the philosophy with the Ultras too, that's a fact, yeah. So they could either make Ultras less good, or they could make LFs better. I think it would be better if they made LFs better, instead of making Ultras worse. Because if they made Ultras worse, and they made LFs kind of the same way that they are right now, again, it's going to be hard to overthrow the current best Ultras, right? So, but I get it, yeah. All right, last one really is how they limit how to Zenkai units. For the one that release, you essentially have to wait 2. Okay, he's talking. Okay, this is I've never heard this one before. And for the ones you didn't do, you have to wait over a month. And for new or returning players that might want to Zenkai some units, they will have to invest time. He's talking about actually being able to Zenkai characters. I definitely wouldn't say that's the biggest problem in the game. I can see how it's annoying. But if, you know, the funny thing about this is, if Zenkais are just not going to be good, then who cares? Right? If Zenkais are just not going to be good, then regardless of it taking a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, like, why does it matter? Yeah, I guess is the counter argument to this, but yeah, I can understand how it's annoying. All right, so there we go. You know, a bunch of different opinions, but I think I'm going to stick with my original opinion here, which is just the fact that new LF characters and new LF Zenkai Awakenings are just way, way, way too undershot to what they should be, and it affects how interactive the game is in terms of meta diversity. It affects off weeks because it makes the off weeks feel like there's nothing to do, and just generally that one issue kind of plays into a lot of the other issues that people are mentioning here. So if they can just make actual good LF characters and make actual good LF Zenkai Awakenings, I think it would have a much bigger impact on the game, and I think people would have more enjoyment with the game, and it would change things up, it would make things feel more fresh, and I hope that's what they do. So let me know in the comments what you guys think are the biggest problems right now with the game. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one.